My name is Johnny Ketlo Jr. I'm from the Nadleh Whut'en Indian tribe, Fraser Lake Band. I'm from the Owl clan. I didn't really know my grandpa because he passed on before I came about. But his name was Ashiel Ketlo, and my grandmother was Angeline Ketlo, who was formerly Angeline Sutherland. So the Sutherland people are related to us via Angeline Ketlo, Angeline Sutherland. So yeah, that's those were my grandparents. But as life went on, I also had a second set of grandparents, and those grandparents were my dad's second wife's, Norma's mom and dad from Fort St. James. Their names were Evelyn and Frank Thomas. Those I regard as my grandparents. Although I never had a lot of memories with them, they did help us out in our lives as far as attending school in Fort St. James and stuff. I remember living with those grandparents. Dad worked in Binche mines, and we were in transitions of family moves and stuff. And I remember clearly staying at Grandma and Grandpa Thomas, Frank and Evelyn Thomas, in Fort St. James during those times. Growing up in Nadleh, that's I'm gonna have to reach back for that one. It was hard times, I think. Mind you, it wasn't hard as my parents. What they went through was quite a bit harder. But growing up in Nadleh, I think we had it pretty good. We had a lot of hard times. There was some hunger involved. There was drinking by people involved. There was some partying by people. Some parents didn't party where others did, but alcohol was a part of our lives, our upbringing. I hate to say that, but all our parents were battling with those kinds of addictions back then, and it wasn't until later in our 20s and 30s that the parents start coming out of that stuff and change their lives, and it helped change our lives. So when they weren't involved with alcohol, they were better parents, and they had a better focus on the upbringing of their children. So I think that's I think for growing up in Nadleh, I think that was, I'm going to say, was a part of everybody's lives. Everybody had to go through that. You name a family, and they all had those kinds of addictions in their families. Kids weren't involved with that stuff, but a lot of the parents were, and some of them recognized that. But for those that recognized it, there was hope for their children later. I'd like to say I was had good parents in spite of that. I think I think we turned out pretty good. Our parents fought that, and in my mind they won. So I'm happy at that. Growing up in Nadleh was, other than the alcohol, was quite a pleasure. I think it was an enjoyable time in spite of alcohol being involved in our upbringing, I guess you could say. Wasn't always involved, but it was there. We knew that. Fishing and hunting was the most enjoyable part of our upbringing. We'd go out on a trap line, and on the trap line with Dad. Dad took us out up the Nechako. I think it was Diamond Island, they called it. And we used to go set conibears and traps of all sorts for beaver and muskrats and that sort of thing. That life was a good life, even though it was cold. I remember a lot of those mornings, but we still enjoyed it. And those were probably some of the most memorable times of my youth, anyway. And I thought that was invigorating part of our lives. You were in tune with nature, and the achievement of getting the animals when you're coming home was a rewarding feeling. You didn't freeze to death for nothing. You had a purpose for that day, and I still remember Dad taking his gloves off to give it to us kids to put on our hands so we'd be warm, because he had such a vast amount of body heat in that man that we'd just give him back the gloves so he warm it up and give it to the next kid. And I don't know, I never forgot that little detail about our hunting trips where Dad used to warm up our gloves and his gloves. Even though our gloves were just small, he'd put it under his arm and give it back to us. I thought that was stuff I'll never forget. Catching rabbits, I remember going out with Grandma a couple of times up here in the North Shore, just up in the back, and she taught us how to set the spring snares with a pole. Don't ask me how to do that now, because I plumb forgot about that. But I remember Grandma showing me the first time, and then went out with Dad a few times after that, and he showed us other methods. And Uncle Jim also showed us a few tricks. I can still remember some of those. I'm sure if I got out there, I think some of that would come back into a memory. Yeah, you'd get out there and you could see when you caught the rabbits, they were kind of hanging in the air. They were caught. The spring pole did its job, or you'd walk up to a ground snare, and usually the snare was set with brass wire, about the size of a thread, a heavier thread, and the brass wire was kind of disguised with little trickery so the animals didn't see it, and then they'd walk into the lasso type of snare themselves, and you just find them laying there dead. What's that like? Harvesting animals was a happy time, because hunting and fishing was our entertainment. There was really no TV. When TV did finally come in, it was in black and white, and I think it wasn't even our TV. It was old Maxine George's TV. We'd go over there and watch Bonanza, and we thought every Sunday that was a real treat. But getting back to the hunting stories, that was the best time of hunting and fishing. Was the best time of our lives. And then once we started getting modern and electricity came, and running water came, and the amenities, modern amenities life came to our lives, and I think that was when we started getting spoiled, because we used to have to pack water from the river in 5-gallon buckets in the GSW pails, galvanized pails, I remember. And old Wausau Sutherland used to get to sell water for 50 cents a barrel, and I thought we're in modern times now, because old Uncle Wausau, he's delivering the water now, and that was our first running water we saw. Before that, we were packing water. So, yeah, it was made you appreciate things. Lejac residential school. I don't know. I don't know a whole lot about Lejac residential school per se. I do know that we went a Martin, Louie, and I am going to mention Martin. We used to hang around a lot. We went to the Lejac school probably for, I can't remember if it was 2 weeks or a month, but we went from St. Joseph to Lejac to, I guess the parents wanted to try out the school or something for us because felt that we weren't doing good in St. Joseph school. And I sort of agree with that. But in our little while in Lejac, it was became trying, and we didn't fit. Some of the Nadleh kids went to school there. I think mostly Stalaco kids went to school there, but some of the Nadleh did too. In my time, but I didn't go as much as some of the other Nadleh senior kids went. Lejac school was I didn't like the praying. It was like wasn't enough emphasis put on learning. I think it was more geared to putting in time praying, and there was math and a few things, English and stuff, but it seems like we were always catechism seemed to rule the roost for the topics. You had to have catechism, and to me, my memory of any Catholic school, whether it's St. Joseph, Prince George College, or now known as O'Grady High, in Lejac, put too much emphasis on religion and nothing on learning. I think I learned more at Prince George College than I did, and St. Joseph. I got to say I learned quite a bit in St. Joseph. It was a better learning experience, but Lejac was really hardcore religion. I thought I didn't really care for that stuff. I believe in God, but I don't like it jammed down my throat. Let's put it that way. Brother Pouliot. Oh, gee, I'm going to try to be nice as I can on that one. Brother Pouliot was a St. Joseph school bus driver. Short little Frenchman, as I remember. Mean as hell. I had no use for him. It's he hurt students on that bus, and it was native students. He hurt them bad, and I didn't like that man at all. He was a cruel man, and I think it had a lot to do with our mental breakdown in our education system. People like that didn't help us get an education because we had a fear of going to school just for that driver. That guy alone was, I think, cost people their education because they quit school because they didn't want a nightmare of riding the bus with that man. That's all I can remember of Brother Pouliot. I hope God forgives him, but yeah, I hope God forgives him because, in my mind, not a good man. Pineapple Whirl. The Pineapple Whirl was a candy that was sold in St. Joseph School. It was a homemade candy made by the nuns, and it was really a good candy as far as I remember. But it cost money. You got to have your dime or your nickel or your quarter. I can't remember what the price was to have a Pineapple Whirl. But us native kids never really got a Pineapple Whirl unless we got a little cash from money from home. Somebody was generous to us and decided to give us some money. But you have to buy these. But I remember all the white students always having their Pineapple Whirl. It's a kind of a hard homemade candy thing that you licked. Was it ever good? But it was for the elite, I thought. It wasn't really for the natives because we had to have the money to get it. It was for sale, and a lot of us didn't have the money, so we had to improvise to get our pineapple whirl. And some of those stories are funny. How what we did. So I wouldn't go into that part because yeah, it's to get the well, I don't know. I think I remember I remember I remember there was a lot of threats to the white kids. If you don't give us your pineapple whirl, you're going to get a licking. And it worked. We got our pineapple whirl. Yeah, St. Joseph's School was. I remember we used to have. They'd have free lunch for the native kids. They call it free, but it was I don't know, some kind of a god awful cinnamon affair, hard cookie pudding thing, and it was just the most awful meal you could have. I don't know what it was to this day, but they fed it to us at lunchtime. So I would imagine it was a part of the Department of Indian Affairs program to feed the native children, and I'm sure a lot of the people in my class back in those days would remember these meals clearly. Powdered milk was the most awful thing you could have. Powdered milk was like drinking chalk or something. I don't know. It was like awful. I still remember that, and to this day, I just detest looking at coffee mate or powdered milk of any sort. It's just like, to me, pure garbage. I don't know. Yeah. Setting it with Grandma was one of the most memorable times of my life. We'd go out. Jahardi was the local farmer, and on that island there was an island outside the farm there, and they call it Angeline Ketlo Island, and I think to this day it's still known as that. But the island over that was Mrs. Charlie's island, Charles' wife, Mrs. Newski, Charlie Newski, and those two ladies were buddies. One was on the other island, the other's on the other island, and they just we went over there to prepare the fish or got the fish and get them ready to pack home. And those fish, I remember packing them from the Jahardi farm back to Nadleh to the smokehouse, and I remember Grandma having, I don't know how many she had on her back, but them old timers were strong, and I'm sure she had at least 10 in there, maybe 15, I don't know. But we were packing 2, 3, 4. That was heavy enough. So you know how hard those old timers worked. We did our share, but I can still remember them putting that sling on their back to pack this fish out. And to this day, I remember all the old timers being hunched over a little bit. And it seems to me that it was just from hard work. The ladies, they worked hard. They packed that fish from, and that's just not salmon. That's in Ormond Lake with the white fish, with the char from they call it a rock cut over here by well, they call that Piper's Glen now in that area. They'd pack char back from there to Nadleh if they weren't lucky enough to have a truck or a car to bring it back from across the railroad. So, yeah, hard times but good times with food gathering. It was hard work, but appreciated. It was good memories. Sturgeon was a rarity. Sturgeon was caught in the nets, and they'd put up a fight, but if you got them up, if you flipped them upside down, the fight would end, just much like a shark. So I'll tell you a little sturgeon story. My stepmother Norma Ketlo caught a 7 foot sturgeon because I remember that because Dad's pickup box was 8 feet, an 8 foot box, and that sturgeon was I think it was 7 foot, and they just got the tailgate closed. And anyway, that sturgeon at the time, Norma caught it in a net. It just kind of rolled it up. But Morse Louis was happened to be on the shore or in another boat or something. I can't remember the whole detail, but Morse came over and helped us with this sturgeon because old Morse was a strong man when he was that age, in his prime, I guess. Anyway, he made the mistake of tying that sturgeon to his wrist and onto the tail because he thought he was going to drag it to the shore, but I'll tell you that sturgeon, it made him look like he was riding a Brahma bull. But we all jumped in the water, and Norma screamed to us to turn it over because it's going to hurt Morse. So we got it. We managed to get it turned over, and it just stopped. And I'm sure Morse was really appreciative of that. That was a funny time of our of our life. But yeah, that's Morse. Morse helped out with that one. That was a good story about old Morse. I think the core values I learned from parents and grandparents was Dad used to always say, share. Don't be afraid to share and don't be afraid to help out. And I remember a few times where we had to bring the needy firewood because people didn't have firewood. Not everybody had it, but we always had a surplus of it. So the core values were to help out, whether it was food or whatever. And we did. We helped out best we could, and if we didn't, Dad would scold us. I remember that, and I think that we really helped a lot of families in Nadleh with our excessive winter gatherings. We always had extra, and I could name the people we gave them to, but I best not because other people help us too. So it was everybody helped each other. I think that was the most valuable part of Nadleh back then. People weren't afraid to feed you or help you. You could go to most any house and somebody would feed you, and they would come to us and we'd feed them. So those times are gone. I almost wish they were back. But core value, yeah, I think those kind of things are sad to say, but they seem to be gone. The habit flying. Okay, that was the nun in St. Joseph's School. As I remember, her name was either Sister Gonzaga or Sister Alphonse. I don't know. One of the superior mothers or whatever, the boss nun. Anyway, she was really the mean sort. And, we'd get strapped with a wooden coat hanger, and a ruler sometimes, and the priest, he used to give us the whalebone thing that they had there in the office. But anyway, the mother superior, I don't know which nun it was, but came after Mitchell with this thing, Mitchell Newski, with his coat hanger, and I could hear him getting a licking behind. They call it a tack board. It was kind of out of sight, so she brought him back there and she started strapping him. Well, Mitchell didn't take that. He slugged her, and we seen her her veil or whatever they were, their bib or whatever, habit. Yeah, it went flying off her head and out by the classroom door, and he just took off out the back door of the class and was never seen again that day. And but the search was on for Mitchell, but they never did find him. But I'm telling you, that was a highlight of my day. That day was like, God, good. Finally, one of them got it. It's about time. So I was pretty proud of Mitchell. Good job, Mitchell. God rest your soul. As far as I remember, smokehouse days, curing hide with angle. I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I just do remember that it had kind of a nice smell, but it did burn your eyes. And the way I remember it, it was the dried angle of jack pine or spruce, I can't remember which, acorns that were dry that they caught on fire and it got it into a smolder like a cigarette would smolder. And that smoke was what they used to tan hide with. And to also, if you ever had a pair of moccasins, you'd know by smelling the moccasins, that smell that you smell there was the result of the smoke from the pine cones. So that's the way I remembered it. I don't remember the procedure for the actual hide scraping and stuff. I do remember all that, but I don't remember the details from. I remember them soaking the hide in the creek, and it was when they took it out, it was a god awful stink. But I guess they had to get it to that stage to make the hairs come off easy, and then they got it on the stretch board, and that was the beginning stages. So, yeah, I've had a few pair of mucklucks and moccasins, even gloves over the years. Never ever had a jacket. But yeah, it always had a neat smell. So it's a smell that I would never forget, and I think some of that smell I would welcome to smell again. It's something I miss in the youth. That's about as much as I know about tanning hide. Plus, I know it was laborious, and you always see the women doing it. Never see the guys doing it, but I think the guys should have participated in that one too, because it was brute hard work, I thought. So, hats off to my grandmother and other ladies that labored on moose hides and deer hides and stuff. Those women did these things outside without complaint, in quiet, and every once in a while you'd hear them laugh, and they were happy. The work was hard, but they didn't care. They were enjoying themselves, and yes, those were the good days of hide tanning and stuff. Well, I remember one time we were in Ormond Lake, and I think there was Ronnie and Auntie Amelia and Uncle Matthew. Don't think Rita was there, but I was there, and we had to go out into Truslow. They call it the Ormond Lake. Truslow is the traditional name for that lake up there, and we had to get the fish out of the net, the char and the whitefish, and they dried a whitefish in the smokehouse there. And whitefish were tedious, lot of work. They had to use little, just picture chopsticks, and I think there was 3 abreast per whitefish. And once they sliced them up and got them ready to smoke, they were hung like that. And they took the little sticks out after that, and they were piled I remember they were piled in the smokehouse like envelopes. And I do remember sleeping in the smokehouse on spruce boughs, and I think that was some of the colder experience of sleep that I've had. And I remember the smokehouse had a big opening in the middle, and everybody slept on the sides. So, and the fish was drying above you, so it was like it was a multi-purpose building. So it was, not only was it a place to sleep, it was also a place to cure the fish. Life here in Nadleh, and how did we ever become so spoiled, and what happened to the appreciation of the simple life. I think that's about all I'd like to talk about sometime. I always thought that our people, especially from I'm going to go from I would say the 60s on, seemed to get more and more spoiled as we got more modern. And to this day, it's unbelievably unappreciative people that don't appreciate who put them there and who made them have comfort now. It was our grandmother and our parents who really did the struggling, and the people beyond them that didn't want life the way they had it, so they tried to make it easier and easier for us. But by doing so, I think they also ruined our people a little bit that way, and we're not humble enough no more. And I think we got a lot to look back on and teach our kids about reflection of. We should start appreciating what people that have died before you put here for you, instead of complaining about your luxuries and comfort. It's time to thank people that put you so you can enjoy your comforts. So at some point in time, I'd like to talk about that little more in depth. I know where it comes from, and I remember the hard times we went through, and when we first saw electricity and running water and stuff like that, we thought it was just like, that was heaven. We didn't have to pack water no more. And but we started taking it for granted, and now it's we can't even do the simple chores of what water provides for you. Like, everything was an outhouse and a toilet. There's no running water, and I never forgot that, any of that stuff. It was, but I know one thing: people are way happier than they are now. That's for sure. Demolition of the Jack was a crew of about 6 or 8 of us. I was sort of the foreman ramrod, I guess you could say, of the project. I didn't really like to do that, but at the same time, the building was in such disarray that it had to come down. And the demolition of it was, I don't know, I think it was a little bit celebrated by people. I remember people coming down to be curious about the dismantling of the building and asking questions about, and reminiscing about the place. And I tried to answer those questions best I could, but I could never give the answers that the real people that's from way before me that suffered there. So those times for them, according to Dad, were very hard times. They went through bitter cold and winters and bad food, and yeah, it was. So I think all the people were really glad to see the school get tore down. It was a bit of a celebration. At the same time, some were sad. So a lot of good memories for some, and a lot of bad memories for others, and a little of both for everybody. So I thought I didn't mind tearing that thing down. It was I think so. I think it was a good feeling to tear it down, because I'm not a really super good Catholic, but I do believe in God, and I think the people that made the Catholic system the way it is not the religion itself. It's the people that ran it, and the Jack was just a representation of those people to me. So I was glad to see it go. But in reality, other people were sad to see it go. So depends on what your memories are of it, I guess. But I think that to me, it represented religion, and anytime religion got involved in anything, it seemed to be a chaos. It's like car salesman. You buy a Ford, buy a Chevy, buy a Dodge. You had so many different religions, and they all wanted you to buy into theirs. And to me, the Catholic was confusing enough. We didn't need all these other religions coming in. And when the Jehovah's used to come around, I used to say, we already got one confusion going, so why would we want another? And that's my feeling about religion. But I do believe there is a great spirit for sure, and I do repent, and I am humble to the Master God, or whoever that power is. That power was here before the Jesuits and the Catholics, and God knows who else got here. That was always here with the Native people, the way I understood it from my grandmother and beyond. So she had because she was Catholic, Grandma had a fear for, I think it was just instilled in them to be fearful of the church and God. So, but I think before them, I think those people, great-grandfather and great-great-grandmother and great-great-grandfather, those people, I think, they had their own church and their own ways to do things, and they believed in something. And it doesn't matter to me. It's the same person. It's the same being. It's that they believe in. Father James calls them Jesus and God, and three persons in one God. I believe that, but that's their perspective. But we're not far off. We're on the same page. So the priest I respected the most has got to be Father James. I say that with all sincerity. He was a good man, and so he swayed me back to church way, way closer than anybody could ever get me back to church. So Father James, this one's for you. You did well in your stay here.